Three. We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship. Look into the skies, little Einstein. Yes, we are going on a trip. We're going to take a trip down memory lane. But before we take any trip, we always have to figure out, where are we on the map? Can you point to the location on our map where Virginia is? Camera person's giving a hint. But if you said that we are located on the east coast of the United States, on the continent of North America, bordering up to the Atlantic Ocean, you're absolutely correct. I'll put a big circle around that. Obviously, Virginia's not that big, but I'm trying to make it stand out on the map. We're going to travel east across the Atlantic Ocean, onto the continent of Europe, to the city of Rome, currently the capital city of the nation of Italy. But when we think about ancient Rome and the ancient Roman Empire, it's not this little dot. It's really a huge expanse which covers most of southern Europe, some of the Middle East, and a lot of North Africa as well. Now, the project that you're going to be working on for ancient Rome is this KWL chart. And this isn't something that we've used a lot in class, and this really works at the beginning of units when you haven't experienced the material yet, but we've already done this, so this should be more simple for you to do. The K in KWL stands for what I know. What do you know already about Rome? And you guys know a lot, so you have a good head start on this kind of stuff. What I remembered about Rome is I remember gladiators. I remember something about their government, and I remember something about their rulers. The W in KWL is, what do you want to learn? Well, with the gladiators, I want to know about how they fought, because I remember there were some kind of crazy battles that they used to have in that big stadium place. Government. Why do I care about ancient Roman government in the year 2020 in the United States today? And then finally, their rulers. I remember like Caesar, is that a salad or something? Or is it an emperor or a king? I don't really know. So I'm going to try to find out more information about their rulers. So when I go into the Phase 2 Social Studies Learning Pack, I'll say that with as much excitement as I can, there is all kinds of reading information about ancient Rome. And I told you that I wasn't going to leave any part of this for you to do by yourself, so we're going to go ahead and look at this together. Living in ancient Rome. Let me make sure I'm at the top. I'm pretty sure I am. Cool. The original city of ancient Rome first grew along the Tiber River. Unlike the Nile. Wait, where was the Nile River? Anybody remember? I'll give you a hint. They had mummies. Yes, it was in Egypt. Unlike the Nile or the Huanghe in China, the Tiber is not a very big river. It flows slowly down to the sea, and the city was built at a place where it could be easily crossed. There was not a lot of good soil for farming in ancient Rome, but there were many different types of trees that were useful for building ships. With the sea just 16 miles away, many Romans earned their living by fishing or trading at nearby port towns. The people of ancient Rome were also master shipbuilders and sailed all over the Mediterranean to the ports in Africa and Asia. They traded goods, such as grapes and olives, for crops that they could not grow themselves. As the population grew, they also used these mighty ships to invade new territories and claim new cities for Rome. The Romans, like the Egyptians, Chinese, and Greeks, made wonderful pottery to hold their food and drink. Roman artists were inspired by the works of the Greeks and made gorgeous copies that still exist to this day. Small shops along Rome's busy streets sold jewelry, plates, glassware, and other items. Rome's citizens had to go to markets to make their purchases. That means they had to have jobs to pay for things. For people born into wealthy families, that was easy. Others had to earn money. People worked in construction, washed other people's laundry, and opened bakeries and small restaurants. In some ways, life then was not at all that different than life today. Many Roman towns were on the shores of the Mediterranean. Naturally, fishing was an important job. Much like Greece, there was limited farming due to ancient Rome's many mountains. But the ancient Romans were able to adapt to their environment. Inland, away from the sea, rows of olive trees lined the hillsides. Grapes grew, fat and juicy, on their vines, warm in the sun. Contributions of ancient Rome. The Roman army conquered many countries. Everywhere they went, the ancient Romans built huge structures. Every new town they took over soon had a big sports stadium. The biggest of these stadiums was in the city of Rome itself. It was called the Colosseum, and it was bigger and grander than many of today's modern arenas. It still stands today. Just as we go to football and baseball stadiums, the Romans flocked to their Colosseums. Instead of cheering for ball players, they cheered for gladiators. Ooh, gladiators. That's part of my KWL chart, so I need to pay really close attention here. Many gladiators were slaves who had been captured in combat. Others were ordinary people who hoped to gain fame. It was a brutal way to live. At the grand opening of the Colosseum in the year 80 CE, more than 50,000 cheering people packed its seats. Gladiators fought, comedians told jokes, and men wrestled with wild beasts. It could get very bloody, and many died within its circle. In time, a huge canvas roof was built to keep out the sun and the rain. The Romans even held pretend naval battles by flooding the center of the arena. There were chariot races, recreations of famous battles and plays, but the man-to-man battles were the most popular. So looking at my KWL chart, I wanted to know how they fought. What did I learn from what I just read about how they fought? That's the information that you can provide there if you already knew something about gladiators and wanted to learn more. You don't have to use the topics that I used, gladiators, government, and rulers. When I think of Rome, those are the first three things that popped into my head as something that I knew. I wanted to know more about each of them, and then I wrote what I learned. You can choose any topic that you want. You do not have to choose gladiators, government, and rulers, but government's a really important one, so I think that would be an excellent choice. Let's see if we can figure out why. One of Rome's greatest contributions to modern day life is the arch. The Romans did not invent it, but they made the arch stronger and better and used it to build amazing bridges, monuments, and buildings. By the year 200, more than 1 million people lived in the city of Rome, and they needed water. Roman architects and engineers erected arches to build huge aqueducts, which used gravity to bring water down from the mountains across broad valleys to the cities. Some are still in use today. Romans borrowed ideas from other cultures, including mosaics, sculptures, and paintings that were often displayed on Roman buildings. A mosaic is a picture made of many colored pieces of stone, tile, or glass. For about 500 years, Rome had a republic. The word comes from the Latin res publica, which means public affairs. A republican form of government. Government. That's one of the items on my KWL chart. And I was trying to answer the question, why do I care about their government? Let's see. A republican form of government is sometimes called a representative democracy because the Romans choose people to represent them. Wait, do we choose people to represent us in our government? How could we make a choice like that? If you said vote, you're absolutely correct. Let's see. People who made the rules and laws for everyone. In addition to the notion of democracy, borrowed from ancient Greece, America's founders drew many of their ideas from ancient Rome. Wait, let me read that again. America's founders drew many of their ideas from ancient Rome. In a monarchy, the king or emperor ruled for life and made all the laws and rules. In a representative democracy, no one person has all the power and the people serve for a fixed period of time. For example, our U.S. president is elected for 4-year terms and can only serve 2 terms. In the Roman Republic, a consul, who acted as the president, had the job for only 1 year, and 2 consuls or presidents served together at the same time. To take part in the Roman government, you had to be a citizen. Sounds simple, but it was not. At first, only males over the age of 15 who were descended from the original tribes of Rome qualified. As Rome grew bigger and new regions were conquered, the question of who is a citizen became complicated. For a while, only wealthy, powerful people enjoyed the protection of Roman laws. What about the rest of the people? The system worked for about 500 years until civil wars brought an end to Rome's republican government. It was replaced by a monarchy that was able to provide greater stability over the vast territory. Even though it was no longer a democracy, the Roman Empire continued for many centuries. Why did Rome's glory days end? By the year 400, Rome's empire stretched as far as Asia and Africa. It was too hard to keep control of areas that were so far away. It was also expensive to keep and feed the huge army needed to control all the people in the other lands. Under a monarchy where power is passed from parent to child, some very bad leaders eventually ran the empire into ruin. Nations from the north attacked, and the Roman Empire eventually crumbled. Rome was first ruled by kings, but the Romans admired Greek civilization, so they adapted it to their life in their own country. Their last king was overthrown and a republic was created. Leaders were elected from wealthy and powerful families and ruled for 1 year. But Rome was often under attack from foreign invaders, and a strong army was a must. That led to change. For hundreds of years, the Romans fought off many invasions, so having a powerful army became very important. That well-trained army helped ancient Rome spread its rule across the Mediterranean region and most of Western Europe. Its powerful generals seized control at home. Rome now had an emperor. Rulers. Caesar, emperor. Maybe I need this. In time, Rome grew too big and too corrupt. Invaders from the north crossed the border, seized the capital, and the empire fell. For hundreds of years after that, many different rulers took control. Today, Rome is a city, the capital of Italy. So to complete your Rome assignment, what you need to do is to fill out your KWL chart. Please give me 3 things that you already know or think you know about. I went with gladiators, government, and rulers. I wanted to learn how the gladiators fought. I wanted to know why I cared about their government, and I wanted to know about their rulers and what was an emperor or the Caesar person. Over here, you're just going to briefly answer their different questions. For this, I could say they battled beasts and they had naval battles. Government, why do I care? Because their government is similar to our government in the United States today. And emperors were rulers for life whose word was the law. That's what I would use for my KWL chart. You are free to choose any topic about ancient Rome that you would like to include in your chart as well. All right. Continuing our journey. Hopefully this works, but it didn't, and that's okay. We're going to continue to travel from Virginia back across the Atlantic Ocean to the continent of Africa. And we're mostly looking at this area in Africa right here, which is where the ancient empire of Mali was. Now let me show you what you're going to do for your Mali project. There's a certain part of what I'm going to read to you that you're going to need to answer questions about. Questions are, how do we know about Mali's history? Which desert did the caravans cross to reach the gold mines of West Africa? What continent is Mali located on? What did Mali trade to become wealthy? How do we know so much about ancient Mali today? And describe how ancient Mali adapted to their environment. And when we get to the part of the reading where you're going to answer these questions, I will stop, point it out to you, and I'm going to attach it to your outline for next week so that mom and dad know exactly where to look for you to find these answers. All right. Am I stuck? No. Cool. Africa is a huge continent with many countries, some as different as China is from Egypt. Hundreds of languages are spoken and there are many cultures and climates. Africa was the home of several great empires, and it was here about 800 years ago that one of the world's richest empires, the West African Empire of Mali, began its powerful rise. People do not need gold to survive, but many people want it. Gold has always been in great demand all over the world. People do need salt, but you cannot make a meal of either of those things. How did the ancient Malians satisfy their needs? People in the ancient world cultures adapted to their environment in many different ways. Resources were used to produce goods and services. For the people living at the time of the great kings of Mali, gold was glorious. There was so much of it that one foreign visitor described a visit to a royal palace like this. There were gold embroidered caps, golden saddles, shields and swords mounted with gold, and dog collars adorned with gold and silver. Mining for gold was brutal, difficult work, and the job of keeping the supply of gold flowing kept hundreds of thousands of African people hard at work. The rulers of the ancient kingdoms built their wealth by keeping the big, hard chunks of pure metal, leaving the unworked flecks of powdery gold to be sold by their people. 800 years ago, the part of West Africa where Mali is located looked very different. Back then, there were lush grasslands that supported a great variety of wildlife. Mali had all the things you need to build a great city and a strong empire. Today, it is dry and barren, and the Sahara is growing bigger. The empire spread westward to the Atlantic coast and northward into the Sahara Desert. It came time to control the salt mines as well as the trade routes for gold, which was in great demand in Europe. Today, Mali is a country in West Africa. The ever-growing Sahara Desert and climate change have taken a toll on the land, and life can be difficult. Still, the griots keep the memories alive with all their music and stories of the past. All right. This is where we get to the reading passage all about the questions that you're going to be required to answer. And when you answer these questions, I'm going to ask that you answer them in complete sentences. And you may be asking me, how do we do this? Once I go through all the questions, which are in green, I will give you some sentence starters if you want to use them on how you can directly answer a question using these sentence frames. Mali storytellers passed on stories and traditions from one generation to the next. Most of what we know about Mali's history comes from the oral accounts that were handed down by Mali storytellers. Wait, didn't it just say, how do we know so much about ancient Mali today? I wonder if that has something to do with it. The kings of Mali were rich and powerful men who controlled trade in West Africa. Mali became one of the largest and wealthiest empires in the region and was an important trade center. Mali lay across the trade routes between the sources of salt in the Sahara Desert and the gold mines of West Africa. For the people of the desert, salt was a valuable natural resource. People used salt for their health and for preserving goods. Miners found gold in Western Africa, therefore salt was traded for gold. People in ancient Mali adapted to their environment. Describe how ancient Mali adapted to their environment. People in ancient Mali adapted to their environment in different ways. When the environment does not meet human needs, people adapt to those needs. They use their natural resources to produce goods and services. Mining. People in the West African Empire of Mali mined gold. Trade. People in the West African Empire of Mali traded for gold and salt from the Sahara Desert. And farming. Farmers in ancient Mali raised animals on the grasslands at the edge of the Sahara Desert. They grew crops such as beans, onions, and squash. So let's take a look at part 2 of your assignment. How do we know about ancient Mali's history? Use this passage, which I'll attach to your outline, and it's part of your Phase 2 learning pack, to answer the question. If you want to use this stem, I would recommend using it. We know about Mali's history because of what? Question number 2. Which desert did the caravans cross to reach the gold mines of West Africa? Answer in a complete sentence. Caravans crossed the blank desert to reach Mali. Question number 3. What continent is Mali located? Answer. Mali is located on the continent of which continent? Number 4. What did Mali trade to become wealthy? Answer. Mali traded blank to become wealthy. Number 5. How do we know so much about ancient Mali today? We know about ancient Mali today because of what? And then number 6, describe how ancient Mali adapted to their environment. Ancient Mali adapted to their environment by doing what? And we just read through 3 examples. Awesome. So we have concluded our trip around the world today. Thank you again for traveling with us to ancient Mali and ancient Rome. If you have any questions about this 2-part assignment, feel free to reach out to me at any time. See you on the next video. Bye.